This is Between Hook Sets. I'm Jason Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the fishing crew.
That's on you, bud. You were.
Well, what was up with the error? Why did we?
I don't know, but you were saying stuff. We've had intros that have been messed up.
Oh,
before,
yeah,
and this is on you.
Yeah, it is. Hang on.
This is Between Hook Sets. I'm Jason Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the fishing crew.
I mean, blah, blah, on you.
Start number 2.
Yep, there we go. I was just telling Jim we've only had one screw up, and then boom. Yeah, and I don't know. We've never had that whole whatever error issue is. I have no clue. I know that I want to just have half of me in the deal all night tonight, and the last thing I want to do is come over here, touch you.
I have to turn sideways so you can get your hook set in.
Yeah, maybe. That works.
Tonight, man, if people don't know who we have on tonight, this is pretty awesome. He reached out to you to jump on here, and Jim Randash he's what he tells 70 years that he's been fishing.
70 years he's been fishing. He's won the PWT, I think twice. We're going to get all the details from him. And like I said in the Facebook post, that tonight is all about Jason and Kurt. Shut up and listen, because Jim Randash is on the show with us, and he's got so much to say that there's just no point in asking a million questions, because I think he'll answer them before we can even think of asking.
Yeah, and I remember him when I was a little tyke and all through the years, and fished the first Gov Cup. He's done quite a few different things over the years, so we'll bring Jim in.
Honestly, I think the cool thing, for me, I got into this about 4 years ago, right? So I don't know everybody. I knew of Bob Propst Sr., but there are just a lot of guys that I didn't really know about. So tonight, we've got the opportunity for all of the people who have been in fishing and in this tournament world for the last maybe 10, 15 years and don't know Jim. They get a great opportunity to meet Jim, to know Jim, and here's Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hello, guys. How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Well, good. Well, I want to start out with a little warning to all the professional fishermen out there. Do not store your fishing shirts in your closet. I went to my closet to get the fishing shirt to wear tonight and found out they all had shrunk. So it's shrink the shirts.
They shrink in the closet.
They don't fit anymore. Well, one thing I also do to start out,
since you were going to get your shirt, this is about the one and only.
One thing I want to start.
I wonder if we're a little bit.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we've got a little delay and we're a little bit behind. So you go ahead.
One thing I want to tell everybody about to start with is this: I keep perfect records. I've got 3 big file cabinets. I've got my logbook with all my coordinates in there. And everything's in place. And I have found out there's 2, I can tell you exactly when fish bite. You know when that is?
When they're hungry.
The day before you get there and the day after you leave is exactly when they bite.
Fell for that one, hook, line, and sinker, I did.
Yeah. So, Jim, you were telling us before the show started, you started fishing with your dad. Give us a little backstory on you. The backstory is what we're going to be here for tonight, but give us a little about Jim Randash.
Well, I started fishing probably when I was about 10 years old with my dad, which is many, many years ago. Of course, when we first started fishing, it was dime on the first, dime on the most, and dime on the biggest. We were on a lake called Silent Lake. It was awful clear lake. You could see the bottom in 20 feet of water. Any clear lake is very hard to fish in. So basically, we had to fish in the evening and fish at night. And the weed edge in any clear lake, the weed edge is the most important thing to learn to fish at. So that's how I started out. And I was very interested in fishing because Dad had a cabin. And then 1975, they had the first walleye tournament at Pier. And I come down at that time, I lived in Moorhead, Minnesota, and I come down and fish that tournament, very, very successful. And then it was about 3 or 4 years later, we had a tournament here, Governor's Cup. We had about 3 inches of rain and about a foot of snow. I'm guessing there was about, I can't remember, but in that whole tournament, not one fish was caught. So we had a little rules meeting and decided that if anybody caught a fish the second day, they would win all the money. So when water turns real muddy, that turns fish off. You know what you have to do then? You have to go find the cleanest water you could. With dirty water turns fish off. Now in time, if fish live in dirty water for a long time, they'll adjust to it. They feed off their lateral line. They don't need to see to feed. There's been stories of fish that are completely blind that do extremely well. But when the mud first shows up, that clogs them up. So I went downstream as far as I could go, went up inside Fido Island, and I did have a walleye on and lost him at the net, which cost me a ton of money. So they have to end up refunding all the money to us guys. So 2 days of solid fishing and one fish pot.
See, the first time I heard the story, Ron Linder called me, and I think it was over 10 years ago, probably around the 40th, somewhere in there. He called me, and I never heard that story. And, the third Gov Cup, well, you've informed me it's the fourth, and actually I got a newspaper article from Tim Brown that said it was the fourth Gov Cup ever. But Ron was telling me all these stories, and the Bad River was puking because it was on Lake Sharp in April, and it wasn't good. And he goes, the guy who had the fastest boat owned a body shop in Fort Pierre. And I said, Frank Davenport. And he goes, yep. He had dual 35 Evinrudes on the back of his boat. And he had the fastest boat, but nobody could carry enough gas to outrun it. And the story I always heard, and Rick Ray has always told me it wasn't him, that Rick Ray had a fish up next to the boat and missed it. Yeah, and Rick's like, that wasn't me. Now we know it was you. And nobody's ever told me. Nobody can ever remember what they did. I'm like, what did they do? Refund the money? Transfer it to the next year? What happened?
Yeah, they refunded the money to everybody, but they kept, of course, the expenses for the tournament. They kept that out. So we all come out pretty good on that whole thing. Yeah, I remember one tournament I fished in the river, and the patrol boat come up to me and says, how you doing, Jim? I said, not very well. What's going on? He says, well, Rick Ray caught a 14-pounder, so you're going to have a hard time catching him.
Yeah, so you fish all the Gov Cups. I mean, you fish a lot of them, obviously the early on ones, all the eras of the Gov Cup, and you've kind of retired over the last few years, or last couple of years you haven't been really fishing tournaments. But you were talking before the show that you've got something nobody else had back in the day. Go into what you got there and what that's about.
Well, before they flood any body of water and they build a dam, they have to do a complete survey of all the land. Well, the Corps of Engineers had 3 books of these surveys. And I found out about it, and I bought 3 of them, and 2 of them are in the Smithsonian Institute. So I had a huge advantage over everybody for years and years. Let me show you a copy of it. So that I had to draw in the shoreline, all the humps. So for 20, 30 years, I knew every hump, every bump on that lake. For example, on this one map, I guess you can't see it right here, it shows an old farmstead with a road leading to it. Well, do you suppose that maybe there's some walleyes might be living in that living room of that old farmhouse? But nobody knows it's there. So I had some big advantage for years and years and years. Finally, they come out with the chips. That kind of wrecked my maps because now everybody's got most of it. But the chips still miss about 5% of it. So there's still a few little places out there that I know of that nobody knows about. But each of these sheets would take me about, 2 hours to draw in and complete. I had to wear magnifying glasses to follow the contour like 16, 10-foot level and put in all the humps and bumps. So I had that's one of my secrets to success, is that I had huge advantage because I knew every hump and bump, every little building in the whole Walleye reservoir system.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was just popping up. This is Lake Master, and it went away. Unfortunately, I'm going to pick on Lake Master, but when they get to 36 feet, you get nothing. I mean, you absolutely get nothing and it's gone. So you've got like the Dr. Sonar chip that is just advantageous up and down the Oahe, the lake and the river and the whole 9 yards. Then you got Devil's Lake, and they are a truly awesome map. And I'm guessing that, and you said it earlier, that Bruce and Warren got stuff from you to put their chips together.
Yeah, I had maps that they couldn't find, in my book of maps. So my 2 books now are destroyed. They're all cut up into different deals. But one thing is this. When you go talk to the pros, you are not going to get complete information from them. I mean, you got somebody that's winning tournaments. They're not going to tell you your secrets. I'm going to tell you quite a few secrets tonight that nobody's ever told you because I'm not competitive anymore.
Right.
I got some stuff I'm going to tell you. It might take 8 hours. Let's talk about one thing I want to talk about to start with is scent. What do you think about scent and walleyes? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. I grew up fishing with Bob Propst. He was my hero. I probably bought Propst 60 different suppers while I'm picking his brain. So I got fancy fish with him one time. I says, Bob, what do you think of scent? He said, oh, not too much, Jim. Let me show you something. So those were the days when we had like 5-gallon cans of gas and just a little kicker motor. So he took a cup and he poured a cup full of gas in there. He dipped his minnow in that cup of gas and he casted it. He outfished me 2-1. Kept dipping the minnow in the gas, outcasting me 2-1. Fish, there's a lot of scents that fish are scared of. There's some there isn't. I used to know a salmon guy that used to take his lures and he would rub it down the bilge of his boat and get some of that gooky oil on it. And he said, salmon just love that oil. But there are some things that you have to stay away from. What is the worst scent that you possibly could have?
I read that like beef jerky, because there's some chemical that Copenhagen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the real worst thing is DEET. Of course, that's used to repel bugs. So anybody that's using insect repellent in the boat wants to make sure that they wash their hands. And some sunscreens are not very good. Now, they tell you to use soap, but you go buy a bottle of soap and go look at the ingredients in there. Well, it looks like an atomic bomb reading. Got this and methamphetamine, all kinds of different things. That's not soap. That's what they call a perfectant. But here's what I do. I take a Coke bottle, take a bar of ivory soap, make shavings, put the shavings in the cork bottle, put the cap on, shake it up. Now you have the best scent in the world. Now, women, in case there's a gal watching, women generally outfish men. And part of it is that men sweat more, and they call it streak off. And that's a turnoff for fish, too. Ladies sweat less, so they do a lot more. They catch more fish because they have less scent. One of the best scents ever that attracts walleyes is angleworms. Worms. That's the best scent there is. I used to have a buddy of mine that what he would do is when he would flay out walleyes, he would keep the fat and he'd put it into a kettle. And he'd leave it sit in the hot sun and it would turn to liquid. And he'd put it in a spray bottle and he'd spray that. Well, if I ever pulled into a bay, I knew he was fishing in there because there'd be a little slick across the water of fish fat.
Sure.
But anyhow, you got to be a little bit careful with scent. It's not too important, but do keep your hands clean. Pay attention to it. You probably never heard of Art Moraski, who's known as the Night Stalker. He wrote a book. And he come to Rapid City one time and he put on a seminar. Well, he was up doing a seminar and he said, I'll tell you why people don't catch fish. He took a can of WD-40 and he sprayed his reel up. Say they lubricate their reel up with WD-40 to make it work good. Fish hate WD-40. So anyhow, I was fishing the Columbia River one time with Mike McClellan's, and we got a lot of good walleyes. Matter of fact, I caught a 17-pound walleye out there, the biggest I ever caught. So then we were going to go sturgeon fishing for a day. So we got in the boat with a sturgeon fisherman, and he put on a cut herring, and he sprayed it up with WD-40. I says, what are you doing? He says, well, fish just love WD-40. Another story on sand is that we're fishing at Mille Lacs Lake. We've got a tournament coming up, but there's a small tournament ahead of our tournament. And one of my buddies won the tournament. So I went over and says, how did you win this tournament? He says, Jim, it's real simple. You got to have preparation H on your leeches. That's all there's to it. So Buddy and I went to town. We went to the drugstore. We bought all the preparation H in town. So there was no more preparation H. Nobody could get it. We come back to the motel room. We put 2 jugs of water, and we put some preparation on some leeches. Put them in one jug. And the other jug without prep, and the one with preparation H on them, the leeches were much more active. So we went out and fished the tournament the next day. My buddy that gave us the information was in the tournament. Both of us did not do very well. But there's quite a few people that use preparation H as a scent.
No, I've never heard that.
So, Jim, what you're doing here is this guy overthinks everything. We're fishing a little neighborhood tournament on Saturday. We're going to have gas in a bottle, ivory soap. We're going to have preparation H. We're going to have it all. He's going to go catch a fish tonight, take the fish fat. I mean, we're going to have it all.
I love it. You just keep talking.
Right now, you probably know that most of the fishermen are fishing the treetops, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jigging wraps. That is going to change. Fish adjust. I'll give you an example. Years and years ago, we used to troll the rocks at Chamberlain during the day with a number 9 floating shad wrap way back, do extremely well. You can get in the money almost every tournament doing that. All of a sudden, it got tough to catch fish. So instead of 6-pound test line, I had to go to 10-pound test line and let the lure go out a lot further back. Now, I don't know this, but they tell me now that you can't catch a fish on the riprap at Chamberlain. The fish have learned and they've left. Also, I told you the story about Brad Schilling and I anchoring up on the bridge pilings up in Mobridge. Well, at that time, I just jigged the bottom of the bridges, the pilings. Then I found out later that guys were jigging them, but they were bringing their jig up quite a bit and catching fish halfway up. Now they tell me, I don't know this because I haven't fished it for a long time, but you can't catch a fish on those bridge pillars. Why is that? The fish learn. I'll give you an example. There's a small lake down in Kentucky. I can't remember the name of the lake, but it's a lake that they could drain. They put 100 bass in the lake. They let it sit for a year. Then they fished it for 3 months straight every day. They caught 70 of those bass. They drained the pond. There was the other 30 were still in the pond. The fish become uncatchable. They learn not to bite that bait. And so that's what happens to some of the walleyes too. Whatever it is that's hot, in time, the fish on the top of those trees are going to learn, and they're not going to be there just as much as they are now too.
Okay, so now with your wisdom and all the experience that you've got, you say that the jig and wrap bite's going to go away. Do you have an idea what will replace that?
No idea whatsoever. Could be very well, probably lead core trolling deep, but it'll get tougher because the fish, they're not very smart, but they do learn. Now, when I reach the age of, say, 17 and 18, my head stops growing in size. But the fish is not that way. The fish's head keeps growing, and a fish doesn't have a very big brain, but the bigger it gets, the bigger the brain gets. It's not very smart. I've caught fish, thrown back, and caught the same fish again in an hour. But they do learn, and their offspring learn. So in time, fishing will get tougher and tougher and tougher. Just like I said, the rocks at Chamberlain, they tell me right now you can't catch fish on the rocks at Chamberlain. So there's so much. Now, listen, there's not really any one secret to fishing. You can't sit down with Dwayne Helm and some of these guys. He takes an hour to explain things to you. Being a good fisherman amounts to 100 different things that you do right, not just one. It's all the little things put together. I've got a buddy of mine here in Rapid City that's probably the best jig fisherman there is. He's got a different technique of jigging, and I can't master it. He jigs on slack line. I've been fishing with him 13 different times, and I'm not a real good jig fisherman, but I've been fishing with him 13 times, and he outfished me 12. He's got a different way of jigging that nobody knows about. Let's talk about something else we want to talk about. Finesse is the thing in walleye fishing. It gets real tough. Now, if we go fishing, say we're fishing a linear rig, do we want a big hook or do we want a small hook? What catches fish better?
Small hook.
Big hook will hook fish better. A small hook will catch more fish. Now, why is that? Because now we're using a leech. You use a great big hook on a leech like that, you're weighing the leech down. You're taking away its freedom to move. So you go up to Tobin Lake in Canada, and every single person up there is fishing a small number 10 size hook because of the weight of the hook. The weight of the hook will stop the. So fish are not scared of line. If they were scared of line, why would they get their head caught in a gill net? They're not scared of those things with line. So why don't we use 50 pound? Why don't we use great big fishing line all the time? The reason is that we want to use a light line so the fish can move around. Now, one of the secrets that I've had through the years is this. I got a special hook built from Eagle Claw. Cost me $1,000 to build this hook. It's a big hook, but that's lighter than a small Ken hook. I don't know if you can see that very well in there.
Yeah, so it's like a wire hook.
Yeah, it's so thin that an 8-pound test line will straighten this hook out. You got to use 6-pound test line. I'm a big believer, like Lindy rigs now we're talking about. Well, let's change the story a little bit. I had a friend of mine was tying up spinners. And I watched him tie them up. And I looked down and he had a 6-pound spool. I says, what are you doing with 6-pound test line? Well, Jim, I've heard you say and other people say that the lighter the line, the better. I said, hey, you got 5 big beads on there and that big blade. Those fish are not scared of that line. All you're going to do is get yourself a lot of line twists. You get 20-pound test line, you tie it up a 20-pound test line. But if you're fishing finesse, Lindy rigs, you want to get the smallest hook, the lightest hook. Now, this gives me the big advantage, this hook, because I had extreme lightness to it. Like I said, this is an 8-pound hook. You use 10-pound test line, you're going to straighten that hook out. So I have very little weight. My leech is free to swim around and do whatever he wants to do. And this hook is very, very successful for me. I found this box out in the garage. I had about 20 of these boxes, and now I'm down to 1. That's how many I've used through the years. I'll give you another example of that. Fishing a tournament up at Gettysburg. Calm day. The calmer it is, a lot of times the spookier the fish get. In order to catch fish, you had to be way back away from the boat. You could not catch them right underneath the boat. You had to get back away from the boat. So I'm using 1/4-ounce bottom bouncers with a 6-foot lead, my little light hook, like it showed here, and a leech. And I win the tournament. Well, after the tournament, a guy that was staying in the trailer, in the camper next to me says, Jim, would you do me a favor? I've got my cousins and my uncles are coming up fishing, and I fished all day today and never caught a fish. Could you tell me how you're catching fish? I said, well, I give them some of these hooks. You got to have this real light hook. You got to get back 50 feet away from the boat and a 1/4-ounce bottom bouncer. So that was it. So a year later, I'm fishing the Gettysburg tournament, and I happen to look up on the stage and hear the same guy that I give this information to. He won the tournament. So I get together and says, hey, how did you win that tournament? He says, Jim, I won it the same way that you told me 10 years ago, or a year ago, and I forgot about it. So hook size means a lot. Use this real small hook. Now, it depends on what you're doing. These guys that are throwing jigging Raps, they don't make any difference what size line they got. The fish, that bite is not a finesse bite. That's an impulse strike bite. That's all the difference in the world. Use any type of line you want. It doesn't make any difference at all.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. I've learned so much. Matter of fact, I'm about ready to get Jim. When I get in my arms crossed and I'm way back here, that means I'm super interested and I'm soaking it all up. So you have filled us with so much information. Don't stop.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you a little something too. Would you both agree to me that a cold front conditions make fishing very tough?
So before you get into this, it's all about.
Let me ask you this: what is your opinion? Why? Why is it tough to catch fish after cold front?
There's a change in pressure. You have an atmospheric change in pressure. That means there's a change in pressure on the water.
Are you there?
Are we there?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. We're there, and I don't know that Jim is there.
I'm here. You hear me?
Did we lose him?
I'm here.
I swear I have a fly went.
Can you hear me?
Check the satellite.
All right. Well, I'm just going to sit here and say that we're checking on the satellite, and while we wait to.
Can you hear me? I can see you.
Well, okay. So I'm back a little bit there.
I can see
we're
you.
talking with Jim Randash, who is absolutely.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
All right. Well, I'm back from my cell phone. Unfortunately, we have no idea what happened there. And I think Jim completely went away. Hopefully, he'll check back in and we'll get him linked back up. Luckily, we've got it on the cell phone so we can kind of keep rolling. Jim is there. Okay. I'm not seeing him. I do not. Let me see if he's on there. I don't have him as a guest. Okay. So just.
There we go.
There we go. All right. I think we made it back, and luckily we didn't get cut out.
Yep.
I did. I restarted my phone. I had something on my end, I think. Okay. We're talking about cold front walleyes.
If you can,
Very
Jim,
difficult.
If you can tip your,
So I
just tip
tell
your phone
everybody
a little
this.
bit because we're getting you cut off at your nose.
Hear me all right?
There you go. Yep. Now you're perfect.
We're talking about cold front walleyes. I tell everybody this.
Yep.
All you have to do is watch the weather map, and you want to go fishing. The longer the weather stays stable, the better fishing you get. You want to fish just before a cold front hits. Okay. I've got a study someplace, if I can find it, about cold front walleyes, and here's what happens. Many people think that it's a change in atmospheric pressure. Cold front hits, barometer drops. You still hear me? Yeah. You hear me all right? All right.
I have a feeling we're going to get feedback from the phone now.
You still there? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jim.
Yep, go ahead, Jim. Yep.
Okay. Well, many people think that it's a change in atmospheric pressure, where there is a big change in atmospheric pressure, and it does affect the fish, but all the fish has to do is move 2 or 3 feet deeper to take care of that atmospheric pressure. The other theory is that it's the ultraviolet light, that when you take away the cloud cover, you're going to get a lot more ultraviolet light come through, and that's what happens after a storm or front. The sky's clear. Well, all the fish has to do is move a little bit deeper. They did a complete research study on cold front fish, and here's what they found. When fish hit a cold front, they move all over the lake. They suspend through the water column and swim all over helter-skelter. They're not in the same spot that they was before. So that good point that held all kinds of walleyes, the cold front hits, they move up in the water column 10, 15 feet below the surface, and they just move all over. So that's what causes fish in cold front. The fish aren't there anymore. They've moved.
They move, yeah, right. Okay, then that makes sense. And so they're moving into deeper water then.
No, not just say deeper water. They suspend, and they just travel all along the lake. They might take a trot of 10 miles. They 15, 20 feet under the water. They just go up and swim haphazardly all over. I got another story that's kind of interesting. We all know that if you catch a fish deep in the trees, that sometimes they'll blow their air bladder, right? And we used to fizz them. And I'm sure you've heard of that technique. We put a needle into the air bladder and let the air out. Well, I'm fishing a tournament in the Montana's Governor's Cup. The wind is blowing hard, and I'm in the mud. And of course, fish love wind. I'm catching fish out of 6 feet of water. And the amateur partner says to me, Jim, all your fish are dying. They're all belly up. Well, you bring live fish in, you bring dead fish in, you get penalized, correct? So I said, well, it can't be. My live wasn't working. Everything's working fine. And I went back there, and here I had to fizz every one of those fish. They'd all blown up. Well, why? Here's what happened. Those fish were coming from 30 feet of water up to 4 feet of water to feed. They hadn't adjusted yet to the pressure, and I caught them. And I had to fizz every single one of those fish at that period of time. So the fish move, they can move rapidly like that. There's no doubt about it. So let's get down to something else you need to use. If you're fishing live bait, a leech or a minnow on a lindy rig, which not many people are doing nowadays, you want to use the lightest line possible. So fire line, of course, is much finer than regular mono or say braid line, but that gives you a big advantage when you're casting because number one, it's thinner, so it cuts the water better. Number two, the wind doesn't blow it around. So if you got windy conditions, you don't get the wind blowing it quite so much. But braid has zero stretch to it whatsoever. Monofilament has 17% stretch. So if you've got 100 foot of monofilament out, that'll stretch 17 feet. I did a fishing seminar one time in Fargo, North Dakota, and I told people, you cannot break 6-pound test line on a hook set. So my brother was there. So I moved him out, and I got 30 feet away from him. I held the lure in my hand, in the hooks. Said, okay, set the hook. He set the hook. He could not set the hook into my hand, and he could not break the line. So he said, let me try again. So he got back. He gave the biggest hook Sagan ever did, put the rod way down, hooked it way up, hit the rod on the ceiling, and broke the rod in half. So you cannot break 6-pound test line on a hook set. If you're fishing real shallow, actually, monofilament line will outfish braid. I was up one time in Tobin Lake, fishing a tournament up in Tobin Lake. I'm in a pack of boats, practice now. If you're in a bunch of boats, you should be able to outfish those boats. If you're not the number one catching fish in that group, you got a problem. So I was getting outfished. So I called my buddy up and said, hey, I'm having trouble. What do you suggest? He said, rip every bit of that line off that you've got and put on good old mono. Well, those fish up there, that's catch and release. Those fish have been caught many times. They're very smart. Most guys are using a little bitty 10 hook. If you don't use a little hook, you're in trouble. And the trouble is that those fish pick up that leech. You can feel them, but they can also feel you. So I ripped every bit of that braid off and put on good old straight mono and went back out fishing everybody. Okay, so we're trolling the bottom bouncer. Okay, what's the best? We got a Kmart rod, $20, or we've got a Fenwick $300 rod. What's the difference? The difference is $208. And when you're trolling bottom bouncers or you're trolling crankbaits, it don't make any difference what your rod is. You got a Kmart special as long as it's got enough beef to it. So, but when you're finesse fishing, throw the jig and wrap, or you're pitching a jig, you want to buy the best rod you can buy. Now, today forward scanning sonar is just fantastic. I don't have one. I never will have one. But actually, you don't need a 21-foot boat with a 400 horsepower motor on it to catch fish. You can catch just as much fish out of a 16-foot boat with a 15-horse tiller. You can't beat a tiller. There's no doubt about it. But you can't fish a tournament with that 16-foot boat because when you're fishing tournaments, you need the speed to get to your spot. But if you're just fishing for fun, everybody out there, you don't need those big boats. Oh, sure, fine if you can get them. Any boat will do it as long as you've got boat control and a good depth finder. But it's always been the key is electronics. 90%, only 10% of the water holds 90% of the fish. You got to find that spot. And even in my days, if I don't mark them on the electronics, I don't fish there very long. One pass, I'm gone to the next one. they're there, you're going to see them. But you can't compete with these boys nowadays. I mean, they're so far superior. I can't carry their shoes. I can't carry their shoes.
Are you there, Jim?
Yeah.
We seem, okay. All right.
We're having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, we're having more technical trouble tonight than we've had in forever.
Might be my fault.
I guess it's my fault because I said we never had any.
I got another story to tell you. Can you still see me? I lost you.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Bob Propst has helped me a lot through my fishing career. And the first national championship I won was in Wisconsin. I think it was Pelican Lake. We had a turnover on the lake. And of course, everybody listening to hear the fisherman knows what a thermocline is, right? It's where the water changes from warm to cold. Well, a diver can go down and he can stick his arm underneath that thermocline and he can feel the difference between the hot and the cold. You can see that thermocline on your depth finder because if you take a fishing lure that's barely sinks, that lure will sink down until it hits that thermocline and it'll stop sinking. It'll suspend there forever. So that thermocline has all kinds of little particles of weeds and trash laying there. That's why it shows up in your depth finder. So when you have a lake turnover and that all the water then mixes, you don't want to fish that lake. Go to another lake. But we had to fish this championship with the lake that had just thermoclined over. So anyhow, I talked to Bob Propst. Says, Bob, I was out fishing all day long and I caught one fish. You guys doing any? Well, we're doing better than you. He said, we caught two. Well, how are you doing it? And he kind of explained to me. So my partner and I went out in the middle of the lake, casted out a 1/4 ounce split shot and a big shiner, and we drifted to shore and went back out in the middle of the lake, casted out a 1/4 ounce sinker and drifted to shore, and we won the tournament. Fish, when the lake turns over, don't fish it. Fish are spread out all over. They can be high, low. There's no rhyme or reason to the whole thing. You just got to go some other place and fish.
That's amazing.
Yep. You cannot. There are really not one secret to fishing. It's just 100 different small things that you do better. I've got a friend of mine up in North Dakota that's an expert on jigging wraps. He's got a different technique to it. I can't cure it. There is something I like. Can I ask a favor of some people out there?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's one thing that's always bothered me my whole life, and I'll never have the answer to this. We're fishing the National Walleye Championship at Lake St. Clair. I'm having trouble catching fish, not doing very well. And in that tournament, the only person that could fish with you would be an amateur that has fished another tournament. I couldn't get anybody just to fish with me. Well, we come in from fishing, and we had 2 fish all day, and here a guide's there, and he has just got a stringer full of 5-6 pound walleyes. So anyhow, I get to go up and talk to him, and I'm really good at extracting information out of people. That's one of my things I'm really good at. And I got to visit with him, and I got to buy him supper. Well, how are you catching these fish? Well, his actual last name was Linder. Is no relation to Al Linder. He says, Jim, you take this 3-eye red eye wiggler, which is a spoon. You throw it out there, and you just reel it really slow, so it just wobbles like this. And then every so often, you give it a little flip. It makes a spin like that, and then walleyes will hit it, and you can't believe it. He said, I can win any walleye on any tournament on this lake. I can win any muskie tournament on this lake doing that. So my buddy and I went to town, and guess what we did? We bought up all the red eye wigglers that they had in all the stores. So we're the only person with red eye wigglers. So we still only had 1 day of practice. So we went out again and fished with my friend, fished pretty close to him. Didn't bother him, but we were pretty close to him. And tried to do it. We caught 2 fish all day. He comes in another huge stringer. I could never get that jerk perfected. So somebody sometimes that's got some time. Now we're fishing in weeds. They're not real heavy weeds, but they're cabbage. But if somebody could perfect that technique of wobble, wobble, wobble. So that lure just wobbles, wobble, wobble. Then he gives it a jerk, and then it spins like that. Then walleye just slam it. It's just unbelievable. Now, part of my secret to success that I've had through the years is information gathering. I have so many friends all over. For example, say we're going to the Detroit River to fish, and we drive along together. I'm on the telephone to 10 different people, talking to them, where you catching fish, what you're doing. I call the bait shops and tell them, hey, I'm coming over to fish a tournament. Do you have anybody in there catching a lot of fish? Information gathering. So I've got a great idea of what I'm going to do before I get there. Now, if you're ever fishing a tournament and you don't do well, don't walk away. Stay there. Go talk to the people who won the tournament. Get to know them. How'd you do it? So on and so forth. McCumsey, ruled for quite a while there. I suppose McCumsey really is the first person really that started the jigging wraps. We had one of the Governor's Cup. I think McCumsey won it, and I'm not sure it was the Governor's Cup. And so I went up to him. Garrett, how are you catching these fish? Well, Jim, I really don't want to tell you. Well, okay, that's his privilege. So I went over to his boat. Here it was, full of jigging wraps. So now I know what he's doing. So he was jigging wrap, real deep humps. And of course, then he actually started the jigging wrap craze. Of course, then I picked up on it. And then pretty soon I tell the buddy, now pretty soon, jigging wrap has got to be one of the most best-selling lures they've got. Can you see me? Because I can't see you.
You can't see us?
No, but that's okay. Can you hear me all right? Can you see me all right?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, you're good. You just
Okay.
you just keep talking. Lean back, set back if you can a little bit, because
Okay.
we're getting from the nose down. There you go. That's perfect.
That help? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's part of the secret success is being able to. A lot of people owe me favors. So, for example, I didn't fish the Governor's Cup, yet I can tell you how they caught the fish. I can tell you right where they caught the fish, how they did it approximately. It is all through my information feed. And I just talking to your friends and stuff. I can't get it out of my system. Once you get it in your system, you can't get it out. I'm just interested in it. Even though I'm not fishing, I'm still interested in it all the time.
Oh yeah, here's the thing: if fishing is your passion, whether you're fishing it or not, for me, I'll talk it all day, every day, whether I'm in a boat or not.
Yeah, we try to get the information out of these guys the best we can. The guy that won the AFCO deal, I mean, we bugged him as long as we possibly could bug him about what jigging wrap he used, and he still wouldn't tell us. So some of these guys just won't talk. Yeah. I mean, and some they don't care.
Right?
They might not tell you the truth, but they'll talk to you.
So interestingly enough, on my In Through the Outdoors today, I talk about who used the jigging wrap first. And in my research, I found that Tom Newstrom had an article about Kim Papineau using it in open water first, and Al picked up on it and then perfected the whole sequence, right? So do you think that McCumsey used it first and you used it and then Papineau picked up on it from you?
I doubt that. I really don't know about that. All I know is this: that the first guy I know that really did well on jigging wraps was McCumsey, because I stole the information out of his boat. Don't tell him that.
That'll teach you.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you a real secret now. You ready for one?
Yep.
Okay. You do as the wind does. Let me say that again. You do as the wind does. Now, what does that mean? Here's what it means. If the wind is blowing, when you go onto a lake, always go to your spots where the wind blew in last. And you fish according to what the wind does. If the wind is blowing hard, 20, 30 mile an hour wind, you put on a heavy bottom bouncer, you bang that bottom, you put on a crankbait, you bang that bottom, you make as much most of the noise as you possibly can. If it's real calm, you might have to go way. Now listen, boats will scare the fish. You might have to go way back away from the boat. So if the wind's calm, you got to fish calm. If the wind's rough, you're going to fish rough. Do it all the time. Always go to the windy side of the lake or where the wind was blowing in last. So if the wind isn't blowing, It was blowing from the northwest. Get over there on the east side of the lake.
You know, it's interesting because it was side imaging that taught me that fish were scared of the boat. You know, until you literally you see it on side imaging and you go, yep, that's it. We're just scaring the fish. And so I've even used, have you ever used those little rubber fin that you put on a bouncer?
Yes.
You know, so yes, you'd call it a bouncer planer, and you can literally force that bouncer out away from the boat, and it works, especially in a shallow basin lake.
Yes, no doubt about it. So anyhow, it's just a matter of you want to use, fish are not scared of line. Not at all. If they were scared of line, why would they put their head to gill net? But when you're fishing live bait, like a leech or a crawler, the lightest line you got will let the bait appear more naturally to the fish, and you're going to catch more fish. So I use a lot of, through my lifetime, I use a lot of 4-pound test line, especially on my leaders.
And you are not afraid to use 4-pound test line, because I would be scared shitless using 4-pound.
I grew up with my dad, and we always jigged 4-pound test. Always.
Yep.
It was always 4-pound test. Vertical jig and 4-pound test.
I'll give you a good example. Okay, you got time for another story?
Oh yeah.
You bet.
I'm fishing with my dad at a tournament at Mobridge, the Mobridge Chamber of Commerce. We're not doing too well. All of a sudden, the wind comes up. I said, Dad, put on some shad raft, number 7 diving shad raft. Went to the windy shore, started casting crankbaits, and ended up with a good limit. Well, I had a buddy that beat me over there. He had a big limit already. We were able to limit out, so we were 1 and 2 in the tournament going into the second day. Well, the wind blew all night long, so we went over there right away the next day, throwing our number 7 shad rafts and cranking them back. We never caught a fish. Never. Well, another friend of mine from Jamestown, he come in there because he knew where we caught the fish. He threw out a split shot on a leech and just barely moved it along the bottom and won the tournament. Well, what happened that we didn't realize is the water got so muddy and we were cranking our crankbaits too fast. The fish didn't have time to react and find our crankbait. If you threw it out there and let it lay in the bottom, you could catch them. Another example of that. I'm fishing down in Glendale with my kids. We catch 30, 40 fish a day pitching the rocks. If you want to win in Glendale tournament, though, you got to go in the weeds, because that's where the big fish live. The big fish live in weeds. Well, the problem is you go fish the weeds, you're looking for 4 or 5 bites a day. You got your grandson along. He's not too interested in getting 4 or 5 bites a day. So we fish the rocks, catch 30, 40 fish a day. We could not catch a fish, not one. So I said to my son, well, we got to go back in the slough area that's now flooded, because it should be some good fish back there. And we're going back in there, and we're going through trees now. I happen to see a guy catch a fish. Well, there's ways of doing things, and I'm an expert at this. So what you say to him, hey, we've been fishing all day long and haven't caught a fish. I see you're doing pretty good. How many you caught? If you just ask them how many fish you caught, they don't tell you. So I always start out with telling them, hey, I didn't catch a fish today. How are you doing? Well, I just limited out. Well, says, how are you doing it? We can't catch fish. You got to throw it out there. He says, you got to just let it lay in the bottom. You can't move it. You take that leash, throw it out there, leave it lay in the bottom. That walleye come along, scarf it up, no problem. So anyhow, there's certain times where fish are very, very sensitive. I have caught fish with a 50 horsepower motor running in 4 feet of water right straight below the boat. Then there's some days where you got to be 50 feet away to the boat. Depends on the sensitivity of the fish and what they want to do. Literally, I had a Governor's Cup one time that we were up north, and all of us, Bader was fishing then. Remember Bader and Brox and all those guys, Rick Ray, all were in there. We're all in 4 feet of water, vertical jigging and pulling in fish after fish after fish. And Rick Ray never liked me to come around because he hated to have a trolling motor running. A motor running does not scare fish, providing the sound is constant. But if you get on, I got a friend of mine that runs an electric trolling motor that has on 3/4 speed, and he hits the throttle, then he lets off of it. He hits the throttle, lets it let off of it. That's fine as long as that sound is constant. That doesn't bother the fish. But here's what you find out. big fish, because of their bigger brain and much more sensitivity, and will be much easier spooked that way. I know a guy that catches the biggest bass in California, and the only way that he can catch those fish is to anchor up and make huge casts. And then he doesn't reel the line in. He stitches it by hand like this. So I went out fishing with him one day when I was in California just to see how he does it. And he tells me, "No, you've got to learn to stitch." You can see that all right, can't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He takes it in, he stitches it in by hand. Let's like catch his line, then he turns it. So he's only pulling it in 4 inches at a time. Then he reels up his slack. So I said, "Well, I can do that with just my rod and reel." So I throw it out there and I'm fishing reel. Well, he catches 6 bass, I catch 0. I said, "Would you kind of explain to me a little more about how you stitch these fish?" But that's how sensitive they get. Research studies will show you that if you've got a big bass hanging on a tree, he lives there. Here comes a bass boat. He hears it coming. He moves 15, 20 feet away from the tree. The bass boat goes by. The big fish moves back to the tree again. Unbelievable. Fish are way smarter than what. Now, there's times they go on suicide missions. Then again, there are times they're so sensitive it's unbelievable. Why I don't know. But I do know this. Watch your weather. The people out there that don't get to fish very much, the longer between cold fronts, the better fishing gets. And just fish before that cold front hits.
Stand that. Oh, there goes Jim. I'm going to pop this up real quick because I want to do it. We're having that issue again, but here's a picture of young Jim. That's about the only picture I could find, and I want to pop this up for posterity's sake too.
Sure.
You can see it.
And Jim, you don't need to see it. This is your accomplishments. I just want it to be a video so people can look at it and can see and can know what your accomplishments were.
So
I got one more. I got one more story I got to tell you.
Okay.
You get time? This is a good one.
Yep.
We're fishing the national championship at Bismarck, and this is the first tournament that was really televised, and it's in the arena, so it's a big one. I have a friend of mine that was on the highway, and he stopped. There's people fishing under the bridge. He stopped to watch these people fish underneath the bridge, and this gal had this 3-ounce bottom bouncer and a lead and a big minnow, and she's just throwing it out in the middle of the lake, cut splash. Then she's reeling it in and had this huge limit. So he told me about it. So the first day of practice I went there, it was full of big fish. So what I did basically for the next 3 days of practice, I just stayed on that spot, didn't move, and I vertically jigged. But no, everybody, all my buddies would come by. "How you doing, Jim?" "Well, I haven't caught a fish." But they didn't realize that I only had my jig down 3 feet underneath the boat. I didn't fish for fish. I just protected the spot all the time. So then when the tournament started, of course, nobody else caught a fish when they come by me. And I told them the truth. I hadn't caught a fish because I didn't want to catch a fish. I just wanted to protect that spot. And that's the nice thing about it. It was an indoor weigh-in. And we had 2 live wells. So everybody knew I did well. So anyhow, comes time for the weigh-in. I go and get the 3 fish out of the 1 live well and start going up to the stage. Well, I'm beat because I just got these 3. I says, "Wait a minute. I forgot another live well." Then I went back to the boat and pulled out the 3-4 pounders. So that was a pretty good show.
So,
but sometime we'll have to do this again. I got so many different ideas and techniques for you. We'll have to do an 8-hour show sometime.
Well, okay. So this was just my thought. I'm like, okay, we're doing what does Sherry say? Packing up and heading over to Jim's kitchen table to listen to more stories. So yeah, right, Sherry. So here's the deal. Hour 1 is done. We're gonna have to have you back 7 times.
Yeah.
And do 7 more shows.
But that Bismarck one, was that the FLW that Steer won it, or was that way before that? Because that same hole, there used to be a video clip, but I've yet to find it. But they were fishing so tight in that hole you're talking about. I'm guessing the same one. Could be completely wrong. But they were
see what happened was that was the same area, yes. But see that hole, that was 3 years later.
Okay.
Everybody knew that spot then, of course, and everybody goes to it. See, yeah. But that was about 3 years later. Steer did well there.
They were so packed in there that they would have to literally put their foot out, push the other guy's boat away to net a fish.
Really?
Yeah, there was a video of it. Like, I can't find it, but it was incredible. They were sandwiched in the spot.
Yeah.
But
I want to tell one more thing to people out there listening. You do not need forward scanning sonar to have fun. You do not need a 20-foot boat. You just need a good fishing boat with a good back troller and a decent depth finder to have fun. Now, if I was going to fish tournaments, then you got to have those big boats. But you don't need all that fancy stuff just to go out and catch some walleyes. We catch a limit. We can't win tournaments, probably. Now, if I fish a tournament tomorrow, the chances are that I would not do too well. But then again, if I got lucky, I hit the right spot at the right time, I could still beat all those forward scanning sonar guys. But they've improved so much, and they will continue to improve through the years. But in time, those fish in the treetops that they're catching, they'll get tougher and tougher. Each year, it'll get tougher and tougher. And 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's going to be a different story again.
Well, and we've already seen that in Lake Oahe, because when the jig and wrap thing basically got exposed here, it was really easy. Everybody was going out and doing it. Now it's getting harder and harder and harder to catch these fish.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really, like, it was like the first couple years, I wouldn't say it was a slam dunk, but you could go out and catch fish on a jig and wrap. Now it's harder and harder and harder to do.
Yep, it is. No doubt about
it. It contributed to, like, when Parsons and Cavias came down to Peoria and pulled spinner baits through the trees rather than going over the top of them.
Yep.
With your baits. They changed the technique up, and they did really well for a long time.
Okay, so one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up because, well, we want you to come back and tell us more. But Kurt and I and Tom Seberg are fishing a tournament this weekend. It's just a fun neighborhood tournament. But give Kurt and I and Tom an idea, a tip on how we should win this thing this weekend. And it doesn't matter what the tip is, doesn't matter what the weather is, just what's the one thing?
Where are you fishing?
Lake Oahe, out of Spring Creek.
Well, you got to go to treetops, but you got to go to top of the tree with jig and wrap. That's all there's to it with forward scanning sonar. You don't want to try to win it. But I've got another thing for you. Whenever I was having trouble in a tournament and couldn't catch fish, I would take a 2-ounce bottom bouncer and a spinner, and I would truck. And I would run all over, pull that behind. If you can't catch fish, that's the method you go to, because you'll find you'll always catch some fish doing that way. But if you're fishing a Hawaii tournament, you're going to have to get up in those trees with forward scanning sonar. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
The only way you got to have a chance to win it.
We've been practicing it, but we got to perfect it, and maybe we'll do it this weekend. I don't know.
And it's so interesting. Jim, what is your take? Everybody, there's so much controversy out there. What is your take on the forward-facing sonar, coming from you carrying your own maps to GPS maps to all the things you've seen over the 70 years of fishing for you?
Well, they're great. I think it's going to hurt the fish population a little bit, but they'll survive. You got to improve. You got to keep moving forward. If you don't keep moving forward, you're going to go backwards. And it's a great thing. And the only thing is, it takes a lot of time and preparation and work to be able to. I don't even know how to turn them on, let alone run them. And but it's a great thing. It's a great thing for the industry. It's going to hurt the fish a little bit. I really believe that most of those big fish that they let go do survive a lot more than the game fish and parks thinks they do. But it's a great development. There's no doubt about it.
So before we got a couple minutes left, before we got to cut this off, when Jason popped up your stats, the thing on there was the NPAA chairman. So were you part of the NPAA when it started in Pierre? Yes. So give us a little quick.
I'm a certified financial planner, so I was in charge of the insurance. And I remember the first time we had a bunch of sports writers there, and of course we all got our number, and we paid for our numbers. Number one went awful expensive, and then I sold my number. I did really well. I think I paid $50 for it. I think I sold it for $200. But Mike McClellan and Bob Propst taught me. I owe Bob Propst so much. He taught me how to fish. He's my teacher.
I think he taught so many guys how to fish.
Yeah, he was the master. He could read a depth finder better than anybody else. But the important thing is, I don't care if you're fishing for fun, you need to watch your depth finder. If you're not seeing anything on that depth finder, you're not seeing activity, get out of there. Now, when perch spawn, and you got a young of the year perch, and you got shad, those perch don't live in the shoreline. They go out and suspend out in the middle of the lake till they get bigger. They feed on plankton. And so that's why there's a way more suspended fish out at any lake than anybody ever realizes. And we still have not really cracked the code of those suspended fish out there in the middle. I used to have when you go over to, like, for example, Lake Winnebago, you want a real calm day because then this algae floats up and the fish get float up too, and the fish are down 10, 12 feet. If you got a real windy day, when the wind's blowing hard, it mixes that algae up and moves that water up, and the fish can be any place. But the important thing is to remember is this: always fish the windy side. 2 reasons: it blows bait in there, blows algae in there, but also it puts the warmer water in there. And what happens is, in the other side of the lake, the cold water comes up and it cools it down. So, and if there's no wind blowing, you're going to go to the side where the wind was blowing in last. You're going to start there. That's where your starting point is.
Fantastic. Jim, we got to wrap her up. It's been absolutely
It's been a pleasure.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Hey, we appreciate you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. Do it again.
Yep. Bye.